Hi, friends. I'm Anna, and you are watching Facebook Live. This is our Empowering Woman series, and I have a special guest for you tonight. She has been a dear friend of mine for many years, over 20 years, and she is just an incredible person. She has been through a lot of obstacles, and tonight she would love to share them with you. Um, I want everyone to welcome Jamie. Hi, Jamie.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing good.
Good. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
It's my pleasure and an honor. Thank you for asking.
Well, tonight we're going to touch a little bit about your um, situation that you have experienced with losing a few loved ones. And I am going to say thank you so much for being here and talking about that. So let's start out by just, talking about yourself. Who are you? Who is Jamie?
Oh, I'm feisty, um, headstrong, stubborn, but I think those are what make me me. I've always been the strong type. I've always been the one to bounce back from anything that has been thrown in my face. When they say that the rainbow's brightest at the end of the storm, as cliche as it sounds, it's true because every storm I've gone through, my rainbow's always been brighter and it's helped me develop who I am. But that doesn't go without having the one of the best support systems that I could ever have, and that's my family and God.
Well, that is incredible. And it's so true. Having family support is a huge thing when you experience something like this. So, you have experienced a lot of grief with losing your loved ones. How about you tell everybody about what happened?
It started with my grandma first. She died in May of 16. And then my father followed 5 months after that in October. And then a year and a half later, my grandfather died again in October, 4 days before my dad's anniversary date. So it was a rough year and a half for me.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That is just unbelievable losing three loved ones that you held dearly, so close together. Um, what advice do you have um, that you can share with others the experience of losing a loved one?
Oh, it's hard. I would be lying to say it, in the time it gets better. It doesn't get better. And I think the number one thing that you have to keep in mind when it comes with grief is yes, your heart does break, especially when it's your father or a parent in general. And then, especially if you're close to your grandparents, that also is a struggle and it's also heartbreaking. But it doesn't get better, but it does get easier to live with. It truly does. So it's kind of a upward battle, I guess to say at least. I mean, it's just you have your good days, your bad days, like anything else, and you learn to cope. You learn to deal with it in the best way that your mind, that you mentally can or physically can do it.
Right, right. What are some of the methods that you have used to cope with your loss?
I did at first go to therapy for a short time. That seemed to help, but then I felt like it wasn't enough. So I did get on a prescription, mental prescription for my mind, and that helped. And then prayer, a lot of praying helped me get through it. Um, that's pretty much most of it. And then again, I have to go back to my support system, my absolutely awesome husband. If I didn't have him, he was my rock in all of it. My mom, she's a strong woman. My sister, another strong woman, and family and friends. I mean, friends who are family. It's just, I had an incredible support group. And my in-laws, I have to give them a lot of credit because they just are amazing. And I'm very blessed to have my in-laws because not everybody gets lucky for that with those. And I did. I'm very blessed, very lucky to have the support I do.
Wow, that is so wonderful. That is so wonderful to hear. And I know that it's hard to talk about, but I really appreciate you opening up because people are watching that maybe have experienced grief of losing a parent or a grandparent. And it's important to know that you're not alone. And we're, there are people out there that are there to help you. And you might feel sad and and just feel like you can't deal with it, but you can, and you
Mhm.
are just one strong woman. And I love to hear that you about your coping mechanisms. So what is your favorite memory with your dad?
Oh gosh. One of my favorite things and favorite memories I have with my dad is just our hunting. We hunted and fished. That was mine and my dad's thing. Um, he was just, I could just talk to him, be like, oh, I saw this buck, or I saw this deer today, or oh, we caught this many fish, and we bonded over that. In my early childhood, it was going and playing, watching him play softball because he played softball in a league in the summers. So it was spending summers at softball diamond and watching him play. And he was just, I looked up at him. He was a hero to me. They always say your dad is the first man you fall in love with. Your biggest fan. He's your protector. And that's true. My dad was my hero. He was everything. He was Superman to me.
Well, that is such a great memory, and memories are just so important just to hold on to and cherish. Memories are just unbelievable, and all the good times and the bad times, it just doesn't matter. Memories in general are so important to hold on to. Um, what about your grandparents? What is one memory or a few memories that you have that you just love going back to?
Um, Going to trips. We went on a lot of trips. My grandparents were always the ones to take us somewhere, me and my sister, and we would always go. We've been to Florida, we went to Canada and to Niagara Falls, we went up north. They did try to take us places that they'd want to go or they think we'd have fun. And when we were growing up, we'd always have these big bonfires and swimming parties and have all of our friends come over. You were there at a couple of them. We'd always have fun. And my grandparents were the most hospitable people on the planet. And they just loved having everyone over and having a good time. So my childhood was definitely fun growing up with having them around.
Yes, definitely. That is such a wonderful memory to share because I do remember the pool parties. They were always so much fun. Um, what about, let's hit a little bit about grief when it comes to physical and emotional. Like what happens physically and emotionally to you when you are grieving?
Physically, I guess, I mean, not too much. I noticed my hair did thin out from stress and the overwhelming emotions that I got from, especially when my dad. Um, I had didn't notice anything much change other than I did lose my hair a little, and I have followed up with that, and that's usually if you're under an immense amount of stress, and when your body is in like that kind of setting, your body reacts to it. So that was the only real physical thing. Mentally, I think I spent a good couple of months in denial especially when it came with my dad. My grandparents, not so much, because I guess they were older, and I figured at one point in the time they were going to have to leave. And so I guess it was just harder for my dad, because my dad was more of a shock than anything, because he was still so young. And I remember being in denial for a long time over him. I was just thinking, oh, he's away on a work trip in Tennessee, because he used to go, and that I just can't talk to him. I'll talk to him. It took me a good couple months before it finally had hit home that he's not at work, on a work trip. He's not coming back. And that was a hard realization, right. But I did get there. It's just, it does take time.
Right. And time, like there's no certain time too, like when you're grieving. Everybody grieves different. It takes months, sometimes it takes who knows. And it's important to take care of yourself, not just emotionally but physically too, and getting the support that you have with your family and people to talk to, eating healthy, meditating. Those are really important things too when you are grieving, and just don't beat yourself up about it. And it's, as grieving as it is, a hard thing. It's very difficult, and there's no certain time to move on from the grieving process. What about like, what do you say, what kind of advice do you tell people that you can share with people, that what you can and cannot say to somebody that is grieving?
Okay. This is kind of a hard question, and I don't want to sound like I'm trying to be mean here. And I know that everybody has the best intentions. When they're trying to console somebody, you may not necessarily know what to say, and that's completely fine. You don't have to say anything. To be there and check up on someone, even if it's been a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, check up on that person, especially if they've lost a parent. Because when it comes to losing a parent, not saying that I don't miss or my grandparents any more or any less, but when it comes to a parent, it's different when it's a parent. And I would say, especially when it's a parent, the number one thing that bugged me the most that people would say, and again, I don't want to sound rude or mean, is when they would tell me, well, he's in a better place. And I would wanted to bite back with, no, he's not, because he's not here. How can he be in a better place? He's not here. He's not standing beside me. He's not physically here anymore. So I don't get that. And I think that was the one thing that I hated hearing the most, was he's in a better place. No, he's not. He's not here. So I think that was my thing. And I get where people, I think we naturally say stuff like that because we don't know what else to say. My best advice would be just be there, be aware, and check up on them, and just let them know, hey, I was thinking about you, or hey, how you doing today? That's the best advice I could give, because to hear that they're in a better place, I think that was the number one thing that just dug at me the most. But
right,
it is what it is. If people are going to say things that they don't necessarily mean, but it's not because they don't know any better. I think it's just because naturally that's the only thing that they know what to say, because sometimes you don't know what to say to anybody.
Right, absolutely. And just being there and listening, just having an open ear too, is a good thing for somebody that is experiencing grief.
I agree.
Yeah, that's a lot of good points, Jamie. It's a lot of good points. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, really good. I feel like It is, like I said earlier, it's doesn't get, it's not any easier, it's just, or it's not any better, it just gets easier to cope with. So I am coping. I do cope. I do have my good days and my bad days, and there are days where I think about my dad all the time, and there are days where I think about my grandma and grandpa all the time. And but it's usually happy memories or things that, there are occasions in my life where I wish I could just pick up the phone and call my grandma or on a cooking recipe of like, oh, where can I do this instead of that? Or my dad and saying, hey, we caught this many walleye today, or tell my grandpa about fishing also because he was a big fisherman. It's just those moments that I wish I could share with them that I can't now are not necessarily bad days, but they're not exactly good days. But like I said earlier too, I have a great support system, and my husband does wonderful, and my father-in-law, who I hunt and fish with all the time, are great support for me because when I'm out doing those things, they're like, your dad would love this. I'm like, yeah, you would. Or your grandpa would love to hear about this. I'm like, yeah, you would. But they let me say it, and then we move on. Like, it's not, I don't focus on the bad. I always try to focus on the good thing, to see how happy they would be, or to see the smile on their faces about what I did or I accomplished.
Right. Right. Absolutely. How do you feel about like journaling, like putting your deepest, darkest, feelings down when you're feeling angry, when you're feeling sad? How do you feel about maybe like journaling, writing all those thoughts down?
Journaling, I have found, it's not necessarily for me. I find music helps me a lot. Music is my release, so to speak. Um, Not many people would take me for, but I love heavy metal music, and that's my release. I can pop in some head banging on a wall music, but it helps me release that pent up energy or that pent up anger that I have at the situation. And I feel better at the end of the day with it. It's just, it's another coping mechanism for me because I can just listen to it and it puts me in another place at another time and in a better mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, music is a great therapy for anything. When just by listening to it, you can feel happy, and just putting on a happy song, and it makes you smile. So definitely, music therapy is a great idea. Definitely a great idea. Who are your top three female role models? Top three,
I would have to say my grandma, my mom, and my sister.
and why is that?
Um, my grandma, when she was alive, she was just the most selfless person that, I mean, I could ever think of. She was giving and loving to anyone that met her. She loved instantly. It's like she took them, they were automatically family, whether you saw her once or you saw her 5 million times after the fact of meeting her. She loved you, and that was, she just, it exuberated out of her. Like she did anything and everything she could for anybody. I mean, it didn't matter who it was or what they may or may not have done wrong. She didn't care. She didn't judge, and she was a good person in general. My mom, because she has been through, lack of a better word, to hell and back again. I mean, she lost her husband for of 30 something years, and he was her love of her life, and she lost him, but she came back and she's better and she's good. She's good now. And my sister, because even though she's 4 years younger than me, she's been through so much, and she has shown me such how to be a strong person. She's shown me that I can be strong just as she can. And she's a mom, and she's amazing, and she's just all around outgoing, and she's even brought me out of my shell a little bit by showing me that it's okay to just be weird and not care about what anybody else thinks. So they're I inspired to be a combination of all three.
Wow, that is just incredible. And you and your mom and your sister, you guys are just strong women for experiencing this amount of grief. And you guys are just strong women. So I really appreciate um, all the information and the advice that you have given to me and the viewers watching. Do you have any other advice that you want to give?
Um, Take it day by day. I mean, don't try to rush to be better or get better, because grief is there is no time frame on grief. You can't say, oh, I'm going to be better in a week, or I'll be over this in a month, because it doesn't happen.
Right.
It never will happen. And to mainly, and it's going to sound cliche, but literally live every day like it's your last, because we're not promised tomorrow. We never are. And enjoy what you have, love life, live life, be who you are, and run with it.
Wow, absolutely. Life is too short, and just living life to the fullest is just so important. And Jamie, I want to say thank you so much for coming on here and talking with me about this difficult topic. I really appreciate that. And all the viewers watching, it's great advice to giving, just people around the world on the process of grief, and everybody experiences grief differently, and I really appreciate you sharing your story. That
You're
is
absolutely welcome.
amazing.
I'm honored. Thank you for allowing me to do it. And then I'm really honored to do this for you guys today. Thank you so much for asking me.
Well, no problem, and thank you everybody for watching, and stay tuned for the next Facebook Live. Thank you.